Hi, everybody. This week's episode of UnAnchored Boston is brought to you by Our Best Foods, which features our best burgers available at your favorite local grocer. And Cold Springs RV, your destination for all things camping and where? We're in New Hampshire, of course. And the Great George Gray at the Great George Gray's Lexington Toyota. And we had a great guest today, and we're so thrilled to have him right here. We're going to hit him around a little bit. We're going to have some fun with him, trip down memory lane. And he better show some RESPECT, Lobel. That's all I know right here. The great Joe Amorosino. Take it over, Bob.
Joey, it's great to see you, man.
You too, man. Really great to see you guys.
Would you call me Dad?
No, I said man.
Oh, okay.
Nothing but respect for you, Lobe. You know that.
No.
Always. Because that's the way you treated me always when you didn't have to.
I have so many stories involving Joe and getting fired at Channel 4 and one of the we'll get to him right at Lynch, all right? Maybe not. Maybe we'll get to him earlier. We do this show once a week, but the problem with the show once a week, like we try to do it, is that when your Celtics play every other night, you do a show and then all of a sudden it's not a show anymore. It's dated. Then the next show's dated. Then the next show's dated. So how could you possibly? You have to wait till the whole thing is over. But I don't think anybody really expected this to be over. But it's over.
Oh, it's over now, and this show's not going to be dated for a while because we've got it right in the palms of our hands right now, what we saw last night. I mean, if you two were there with me, standing on each side of me, the way we were for so many years, you would have been so disgusted by what you saw, start to finish, and the reaction by the team. And it seems like people want to make excuses for what's gone on with this team at the end of the year. And I know you two wouldn't have had it at all that way.
So let me ask you, Joe, what's going on with? I mean, after Game 3, I mean, like I as a guy who grew up around here, like you did, and Bob has been here for such a. I mean, I was embarrassed. That's the word, embarrassed. What happened?
Yeah, sometimes you see that in a playoff series, that one blowout that sparks a team back to life. I mean, and that's. Maybe the hope there was, hey, they give up because that's what NBA players do now. And they say, we'll live to fight another day. And they did. And then they seem to have had a really good story in the making there, winning those 3 games. But I saw trouble at the end of Game 6. When it got tight, those guys, they're not built for it mentally. They're not mentally tough. And, you have these 2 young stars in Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. Like I like to call them, their first team and second team All-NBA during the regular season. That's when they are, okay? And then you look at the Miami Heat, you've got Jimmy Butler and Caleb Martin. Their first team NBA and second team NBA in the postseason. And you saw the difference throughout this series. And, I don't know if it's because the guys that they were surrounded by from the beginning in their careers, you had Kyrie Irving as a mentor for these guys as young players. You had Gordon Hayward come in, unfortunate that he got hurt, but not an alpha dog, more like Tatum, a little bit quiet, do his job. You had Kemba Walker come in and he had no juice. Al Horford's been in and out and Al can only do so much. And I just don't think they're built for it. I think they still need guys who have a killer instinct and they need alpha dogs, and that's not what they are.
But you said, Joe, you used the word disgusted. And disgusted usually is in terms of disappointment in effort or disappointment in expectations, or you're just disgusted. It's different than being disappointed.
Yeah.
Disgusted is a lot different than being disappointed.
Yeah, disgusted is you're the 2 seed in the East with your 2 all-pro players and have home court advantage, and you lost to the 8th seed. Right? That's disgusted. And then you got blown out in a Game 7 on your own floor. And I think Bob Lobel would be disgusted by that had he been standing next to me last night and would have made that very clear on the air.
The reaction of the players, I think people just kind of focus in on player facial reactions, how they're rubbing their face, how they're just hiding behind. It all fit into a bunch of losers for lack of a better word.
Yeah. I mean, it's A lot has changed, as you guys know, in basketball and in the NBA. And you have a product where they play a regular season, and you have a national media, and you have a home team media on their network that just showers them with praise throughout the regular season and promotes the product. And then you have a fan base that believes that to be true. Then they play in the postseason, and now the national guys step in who were promoting the sport during the regular season, now are going to become critical. So you heard what Charles Barkley said at halftime. He was disgusted by what he saw. And then you hear what Reggie Miller's saying during the broadcast, and that's the big reality check, I think, for everyone here in Boston.
That's really interesting. I agree. I don't agree, Lynchy, that
Yeah.
you hear guys like Barkley and Reggie Miller stand up and say, these guys are playing like crap. This is not a Celtic. I'm embarrassed by what I'm seeing out there.
They're a great team when they're ahead. They're a great front running team.
They sure are.
I was thinking about this. This done regular season again. It's driving me crazy. Both the Bruins and Celtics were eliminated by the number 8 seed, South Florida teams, and teams that just sort of had it downshifting a little bit during the regular season. And once the postseason started, boom, they just put it into overdrive and just played their best hockey and their best basketball of the season.
Yeah, it's so true. And it's, I don't want to go full negative on this organization because they've done so many things right. When you think about what they did, you think about what Danny Ainge did. I mean, he hits on Marcus Smart with the 6th pick in 2014. That's where it starts. He hits on that guy at 6. Then he hits on Jalen and Jason and with the number 3 picks. It's not as easy as you think it is if you go back and you look at these drafts and you see 1 through 5. So that's the 14 draft, then the 16 and 17 draft. Comes back in 18. He takes Robert Williams with the 27th pick overall. He hits on that. And then he hits on Grant to a certain degree at 22 in the next draft. So there's 5 rotational players of their 8. Now Brad gets elevated and he changes this around. He brings Al back, hits on that. We didn't think Al had anything left in the tank. Then he brings in Derek White. What a trade that was. And then he brings in Brogdon. There's your 8 guys that they put together. Problem number 1 is Ime Udoka gets suspended at the beginning of the season, who was a guy who could carry some great weight with these guys. Role player, former player, tough guy, walks the walk. They listened to him. Maybe they were a little intimidated by him too, which isn't a bad thing.
Right.
He's gone. You bring in Joe Mazzulla, going to be a great coach someday, I'm sure. He's got all the makings of it, but you bring him in, you don't put any veteran guys around him. And, I'm really interested to know, and I don't know this, whose call that was to remove that interim tag at the All-Star break. Because
also, Joe, they didn't, you hit it right on it. They didn't bring any veteran guys in around him to help mentor Mazzulla. They didn't bring any, lifer bench guys, and there are plenty of them around him to back him up. And therein lies, I think, a huge part of the problem.
Yeah, I mean, if you you just go back through history, you can start with Spoelstra, you can go back to Phil, you can go back to all these great coaches. They always had a couple gray hairs on the bench next to them, and that's what the Celtics need, 1 or 2 of those, and they need some players who can carry some weight on that bench. But, just to follow up, I don't know if that was Brad Stevens going to Wick Grousbeck and saying, hey, I think we should remove this tag and give him the head coaching job, or was it Wick calling Brad and saying that we should do it? Because I think whichever way that went, that communication, that could dictate what we see next with this situation.
What would your guess be?
My guess is Wick called Brad and said, let's take it on. Are you with me? Yeah. What about you, Lynchy?
That Wick and his, great guy that he is, really wanted to do his coach a favor.
Yep. What about you, Lynchy? What do you think?
I think the exact same thing, but I also I'm not 100% sure that Mazzulla is going to be back as the head coach next year.
Prior to last night, I thought he had done enough to secure his job, but maybe it's reactionary last night and this morning. But I'm with you.
I see too many things. I mean, the not calling timeouts in the Philadelphia series. Last night Miami, they threw a zone at the Celtics, and you go back to junior high school days. There's only one way to beat the zone: whip the ball around, whip the ball around. And you catch the zone finally in balance, and you get yourself some open looks. All they did was just stand out. They mirrored the zone that Miami was playing. There was nothing. There was no ball movement, and they're a team. I said it before. They're a great front running team, but they're also a team that if they jump out to a hot first quarter, they're in control and they're playing the game on their terms. They didn't play 1 second of that game last night on their own terms.
No, it was a shame. And they are a front running team, and it does become contagious with this team. It seems more than other teams we've seen, whether it goes sour or whether it's going great, it tends to go in that direction in a hurry. And I know the quick reaction around Boston is going to be like, we need to get rid of Marcus Smart. We need to get rid of, Grant Williams. I'm sitting here and saying, Al Horford's going to be 37 years old next week. I don't know what more you're going to get out of him. You get rid of Marcus Smart and you get rid of Grant Williams, this team has zero toughness, mental toughness or physical toughness. Right. So you better find a way to either keep those guys or replace them with guys very similar, because that's not the answer, getting rid of the guys who actually have some fight in them.
And I think your other point is that Mazzulla needs help.
He does. Yeah, and I mean, his assistants are going to go down to Houston with Ime. That they're Ime's guys. That's another element. You're coaching with Ime's guys who are upset that Ime lost his job, and you don't have any veteran guys. You have Brad Stevens, thankfully, but Brad's not on the bench. Brad's not making any calls during the game. He's not making adjustments during the game. I was watching the Sixers series. And timeouts call, boom. And when Doc Rivers would walk out to half court, he had a collection of guys around him. And it was the old, hey, guys, what do you got? And you're hearing he's listening to other guys tell him what they saw. They're making notes. They're going back and forth. And then they go back into the huddle. You know how those NBA timeouts work. The players stay on the bench. The coaches walk out onto the floor and they have a quick meeting. Then they go back in. Then I'm watching the Celtics timeout, and it's just Joe Mazzulla with the board, and no one's saying anything. He's just telling them what's going on. And I'm saying to myself, you got to put some veteran guys around him. You really do. I mean, don't you want veteran guys around you when you're conducting business who see things you don't see? It's like anything in life.
Yeah. Tex Winter was always around Phil Jackson. He was always Pat Riley always had a guy like that around. And you're right, Mazzulla doesn't have. He's just learning so many lessons so fast the hard way, and it's I feel bad for him because this whole thing is like a blur. Elevated coach. Now the team's playing great, and now the high expectations are up here, and we're all saying, okay, all right, the regular season means absolutely nothing. I mean, it means a little bit, but and here we go. And I think he learned some really tough lessons. I mean, I thought he just got his ass out-coached last night. I mean, just head to tails.
Maybe you guys can answer this for me, because I don't know. How do they backtrack this thing now? You just elevated this guy. You made the decision. You did this. This guy just bought a home. He moved his family in. He's locked in right now. Now, how do you backtrack this thing and actually fire this guy?
Well, I think they may do it. I don't have any definite knowledge. I have two sources that said a decision was already made in the Philadelphia series that they're not going to bring him back next year. But you're right, Joe. I don't know what they do with this guy. I don't know. I mean, do we send him to coaching camp this summer? No. I mean,
well, you either get somebody to help him, or get somebody to help him, or you cut him loose. I mean, I don't think it's it. I think it's one or the other.
Yeah, I think you're right, Bob. Getting someone to help him, but who? I mean, who's out there that's a veteran assistant that doesn't mind being a mentor, on a bench, a guy that's been a lifer, basically. That's what you need.
Yeah. I thought it was really interesting that they had Steve Silas in the building. It's during the Hawks series, and walking around, obviously with his connections because of his dad, who's passed away. Was here, and I believe they were pursuing him in some way to come into the organization, whether as a consultant in the front office or potentially on the bench. So he's someone I would keep an eye on. Again, a young guy, but you got to keep in mind, Steve Silas, as young as he is, he's young, he's 50-ish. I mean, he was an assistant in this league for about 15 years before he got his head coaching job, and he grew up with it. So, I mean, he was someone who was on my radar that could be helpful. And I watched a number of players who had played for him. There were a couple on the Hawks, and the way they came up to him, and they had a lot of respect for him, the way they spoke with him. So I think the wheels are already in motion, I'm sure, trying to figure out how they can bring in some help here for Joe Mazzulla if they do keep him.
Yeah. Well,
how about the booze? What about the fans after the fan reaction at the end?
Well, I'll tell you, I learned a few tricks. You know, I would watch you guys along the way, what to make note of. And with 7:30 to go in the fourth quarter of a Game 7, they were down by 19. Game's not over, okay? It was over. We know it was over, but it's not over. There's 7:30 to go. That's when they started booing.
Right.
And Jaylen Brown set them off with his 8 turnovers, and some of them were, I mean, so painful to watch. And you know, you're a guy or a woman who paid $800 to sit in the last seat in the balcony. The players are about this big when you look down from that back row. You know, if I paid $800 to sit in that row in that back seat, you bet I'd be booing after watching Jaylen turn it over 8 times. You know, you paid $100 a turnover. That's what you paid for.
Hey, I'm getting hungry, Joe. You like the grill, Joe?
Yep, here we go, Lynch. You're good at this.
Well, grilling season is here, New England, and you know what that means. It's time for our box of our best burgers in your freezer. You got a box, Bob, right there?
I got it right here, Lynch. You relax. Everything's cool.
All right, hold them up.
Everything's under control.
This is the classic part of the show. We get things upside down, inside out.
Oh, great.
Well, it's time for a box of our best burgers for your freezer. Now, whether you're in your backyard or off on a weekend adventure, enjoy flavorful burgers from Our Best for lunch or for dinner. I had one the other day, by the way. It's really good. Our Best burgers have been a New England staple for over 40 years, connecting family and friends with great quality food. They're affordable, convenient, and most of all, they are delicious. Now, you have to look for the Smiling Chef. Bob is going to point out the Smiling Chef. You see him right there, Joe? All right, he's on every package at your local grocer's freezer aisle. For great recipes and money-saving coupons, go to ourbestfoods.com. Bob loves this part because we've nicknamed the Smiling Chef. We've nicknamed him Pablo Bell. Because back when the Sox were in Winter Haven, we went down to cover the Red Sox. This is in the 80s. And Channel 5, well, we could only afford a photographer and a truck operator, but Channel 4 had 12 people with Lobel. And every person, all 11 people, had their hotel rooms at the Holiday Inn. They checked in. They were ready. No room for Bob Lobel. None whatsoever. He's not happy about it. So tell him what happened.
I ain't happy. I was just disappointed. Well, like I said, they did find somebody in the list called Pablo Bell. Matched. So I'll take the room.
That's the true story. That's
size. Right.
So whoever called up and made the reservations, the person on the other end didn't hear Bob Lobel.
Right, I got it. Yeah.
They heard Bob Lobel. And so we named the Smiling Chef on Our Best Burgers, Pablo Bell. And every week we have to tell the story. And Bob loves when I tell the story, don't you, Bob?
Oh, I love it every week. And Lynch, you were in Colorado. The Red Sox won. It was 2007.
Yeah.
Lynchy was there, right?
Yes.
I know Joe was there.
Yep.
And I was there.
When the girl lifted her top up, were you out in the bullpen with us?
Yes.
We were watching the game like that.
Right there, right.
Yeah, on that rail right in center field, it seemed like it was a good view, like where we could watch from. I think it might have been in right field. Yeah.
It was in right down by the right field line. And we were like in this little cage or something like that.
So remember after the game, after the Red Sox clinched 4 straight, right? Breeze through Colorado. After it was a different on the field kind of ceremony. They brought Mike Lowell out to the mound where he was interviewed as the MVP, correct?
Yes.
He was. But then everybody had to scramble for their own interviews, right? And Amos, you were doing Francona.
Yeah.
Because he was, right? He's on your show. I mean, Sunday night show. I knew that. I'm standing right behind that. Papelbon, I think, was on with Butch. Whoever was on, I think it might have been Papel. I know they had a Sunday night show. And so I got back to the station, I swear to God, and they said, we were really disappointed with your coverage of the World Series. He says, because you weren't aggressive enough during the Francona interview and the Papelbon interview. I said, well, the point was that these guys belong to Amorosino and Butch. I said, they paid these guys during the regular season. Don't you understand? It was part of their show. And they said, well, we're going to keep you off the parade. We're going to put Burton on to do the parade.
What?
That's exactly what happened. So
unbelievable.
Yeah, you nailed me, Joe. I said, I'm just trying to be a good guy and not interfere with Channel 7's relationship with Francona and be a jerk about it. There it is.
Well,
that was it.
Yeah. Well, you had no shortage of those relationships that we couldn't touch through the years. So I don't feel bad for you, pal. All right. At all.
True.
Not even a little bit. I got a story, Lynchy. We're at the old Yankee Stadium. We had to get up on that hill right at the end of the game.
Yep.
On the side of the parkway with the trash and all the fans coming through us, messing with us.
Outside the stadium.
The grassy knoll, we called it.
The grassy knoll.
Yeah.
So for some reason, I would always end up right next to Bob. I think maybe our photographers or friends or something, which was awful. Like I'm next to Lobel when I'm doing so. So it's 2003. You're like further away. You're up there too, but you're further away from me. But he's right next to me. So it's 2003. The Pedro in too long thing. It's awful the way they lost. One of the worst losses ever. But we're right back there in 2004 for the big comeback where they're going to beat them in that 7th game. So I'm standing up there and I'm like, it's unbelievable. They're going to the World Series and I'm trying to concentrate about what I'm going to say. And Bob's over here, he's got a lot to say to me. He's yapping away. So he's trying to convince me, Lynchy, that it's a good idea that we put our cameras together and we both appear on both stations together because this moment's bigger than Channel 4 and Channel 7. And he's dead serious, okay? And I'm saying to myself, he's almost got me too. Like, I'm like, oh, maybe we should do this. And then I'm like, if he puts me on Channel 4, not really a big deal. If I put Bob Lobel on Channel 7, I'm getting fired. But he thought it was the greatest idea to this. I'll never forget it.
I remember
and finally I say, and he's like disappointed. He's like, okay, all right. I'm like, all right, I got to go. I have work to do over here.
I don't remember that show at all.
Yeah. Well, that's exactly what happened.
Clever, actually. It's amazing. It's amazing that people in the front office, how they viewed things as opposed to how we viewed things out in the field.
Yeah.
We were competitors, but we were teammates.
Yeah. We're in the same.
They were just bottom line advertising competitors.
Yeah. That's the truth.
They have no idea what goes on, how you have to run and sprint outside and get something done, get back inside, find out what you missed. Like Grady Little leaving Pedro in too long. We missed it was 5-2 Red Sox when we went outside. When we came back in, it was 6-5 Yankees. And
yeah.
Had no idea what happened.
I mean, remember those games? I think it was games 4 and 5. They were 14 and 12 innings. So we were standing outside of those stadiums, listening on, through our earpiece or a little monitor or something for all those innings. I mean, it was an hour. Plus, those games got on. Remember, they got over after midnight. So we're out there trying to put the pieces together. And then as soon as it ends, bang, go. And we're looking at each other.
Want a job covering sports? Don't get into a winning team sports television station because you'll never see a play.
Yeah.
When Ortiz hit the grand slam against the Tigers, I was out in the street. I had no idea what happened. People are screaming and yelling. I'm yelling at some guy, who's in the standing room only, in the right field grandstand. I said, "What happened?" Of course, they yelled down all kinds of profanity. Get Ortiz on an effing home run. An effing home run. And I'm like, oh my God, don't let me get this on the air. And but Lobie and I were in the downstairs when the ball went through Buckner's legs. We never saw it. Everyone's heard that story because we were ready for the celebration.
I'll tell you what's funny, and you guys are probably the same way. From standing out in front of Fenway through all those games, I could almost tell you pitch by pitch what happened based on the fans. Was it a ball? Was it a strike? Was it a ground out, a fly ball, a deep fly ball? You know, depending on which team was up, by the crowd reaction, because we spent so much time listening to the crowd trying to figure out what's taking place. Yeah.
And when you heard the organ, you knew it was out number 3.
It was a great. I go back to Fenway Park. There was, and maybe someday will be again, but certainly isn't now, a great energy between the fans all over the ballpark and on the streets and the whole area. It was just one combined ball of energy, and you could read exactly what was going on without seeing a scoreboard or hearing a word. It was a real gift to be a part of that whole time.
Yep, indeed. Yep.
Joe, let me take you back to last night. I was watching Channel 5 News at 6 o'clock, and everybody was on the floor. Is that because the game started at 8:30? You were allowed down there?
Yeah, so the last couple of years, they've allowed us to stay on the floor, but not in the finals, just because it gets too crowded. So everyone was down on the floor, and that's the way it had been. And again, with the 8:30 start, there's plenty of time to get out of there. You're not up against 7 o'clock or 7:30. That's all that was. Yeah.
So you have to be upstairs for like 7:30 games to do your live show?
Yeah, they'll usually clear you an hour before the game. But I know you're kind of remembering some of those ones where they're trying to clear us and at 6:30 and we're right up against it. But with the 8:30 starts, we were fine.
No, we were always pretty excited about that, being out of there nice and early. You know, just when they come down and tell us at like 6:18 that we have to get out there right away.
Yep. And then for the NBA Finals, they move us all to 9 now. You're not even down there, even pregame, even on the road. Yeah, it's a different animal. It's a different animal.
I miss the Bruins games at the Boston Garden when you were on the ice doing your sportscast on the ice, right by the players' bench or whatever it was.
Yeah, right from the bench. Yeah,
right from the bench.
Yeah, it was different.
Boy,
you know, those relationships have been watered down because of that. I mean, you know, Lynchy caught a lot of it at the end. You caught some of it at the end too, Bob. And it's like, you know, spring training, the access, Patriots training camp. You know, it's the opportunities that you guys had to forge relationships with players and management and coaches. This next generation will never, ever get any of that.
Yeah.
Hey, Joe, did you attend in Patriots press conferences? Did you go in and attend those Belichick? Were you in that little meet and greet room with Belichick and when he took questions and answers from the press?
This season or in general?
In general.
Yeah, many times, sure.
Just,
I mean,
didn't you ever want to stand up and say, "Come on, Bill, just why are you doing this?"
You know, I think, and I'd be interested to see what Lynchy says on this too. I think at the beginning I was like, man, this guy's giving us nothing. Why does he have to be like this? And then over time, when people would ask a question, I was almost like laughing on the inside, knowing what was about to come next. Yeah. And I started to really enjoy it. And for the last probably 5 years or so, 6 years, I've just enjoyed it, Bob. I'm like, he's going to do what he's going to do. And I know you guys, you know, have spoken with him off camera and in privacy, and he's completely different. And he really does let his guard down just in terms of who he is as a person, not revealing information, of course, but he's a completely different guy. Lynchy, you had his show for a while there. You know better than anyone.
Yeah, it was, I feel the same way you do. And especially when he got deeper into the playoffs, every news station would send a news reporter down. And I know I'm going to be the guy that's going to crack Belichick. I'm going to be the guy that's going to get an answer out of him. And the question comes, and I go, oh no, please don't answer. Here it comes. I said, first it's going to be the death stare, like who are you? And Belichick will stare at him, and then he'll give him some answer. And you're right, you're laughing like hell on the inside because it's actually pretty good entertainment. And I hate to say it, but he's more entertaining when they lose than when he wins. Would you agree?
Yeah, absolutely.
How do you think he ever came up with "On to Cincinnati"? Where did he ever come up with that line?
It was probably like you with all your lines. It was probably just something he just said and people grabbed onto it, you know? You know, why can't we get players like that? Time to hit the panic button. You probably just said those things one day randomly, like a random thought. And then you're like, man, people like that. I'm going to keep saying it now. You know, same thing. I don't think he thought about it at all.
Probably not. No.
You know?
Well, we're on to Cincinnati.
Yeah, right?
All right.
Yeah, Cincinnati. They're one of the great lines of all time. That's it. Right after they got smoked on that Monday night game in Kansas City. And, you know, I think Mike Giardi might have asked him if he thought about changing his quarterback. And he said, we're on to Cincinnati, and we're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Cincinnati. And it became great. So now we're on to everything. What are we on?
Yeah. That's what I was going to say. It's like people will say they're on to anything now here in New England based on that. You know? It's the truth.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, what do you do if the Celtics come out next year and have a great regular season again? Is there all going to be everyone going to be saying, yeah, but remember what happened last year? We had a great regular season. Nothing really. It doesn't seem like I could care less about the regular season because we all know it means absolutely nothing. You know, our team's going to put as much value on the regular season as they have in the past. The Bruins have had a history of it. Like they used to hang Adams Division banners in the Garden. You know, winning the President's Trophy is such a big thing. Are we ever going to see the day when people go, I don't really give a crap about the regular season as long as we make the playoffs, period?
Man, I go back to the promotion of this sport and the promotion of this league because they try to engage the fans so much. That's where they're making their money. And I think they do a really good job of it, of making people care about the regular season. So they have to appear as if they care about the regular season. But as an organization, should they be thinking about building teams with guys who are built for the postseason? Yes. But I mean, I don't know about you guys, but I'm watching guys like Tatum and Brown, and not them alone. It's the whole league, all the stars. You're up by 25 in the fourth quarter, and you have your star in there because he's trying to hit 40 points so he can up his average and say he scored 40. And I just, there's something about that that's rubbed me the wrong way over the last couple of years in this sport, because that's padding your stats. That's how you become an all-pro. That's how you become an all-star. That's all those individual awards. And I'd rather see them earned a little differently than the way they're being earned in the sport right now, because what you have is these players they've created that don't know how to perform when it counts.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah. What do you got there, Bob? You got another commercial you're going to read?
No, I'd be happy to read this other commercial. I was just thinking about how the National Hockey League's played itself out since the Bruins have disappeared. It's like the National Hockey League's disappeared. I mean, you had to be a hockey fan. I mean, tell me what's happened in the National Hockey League since the Bruins have lost.
Wow.
Other than Florida winning. And that's just an afterthought.
Yeah, right? I mean, you've got fans that don't have that.
What happened to Kachuk? What's going on with
Vegas?
Yeah. What's going on with, now, has anybody even really talked about Vegas and Cassidy and you know?
There's no history there. You know, that's what it comes down to. There's no history. There's no generations of fans who've been fans of these teams to carry that fan base. There's no history between these teams and other teams where you could hate Vegas or hate the Panthers. There isn't enough history there.
Man, imagine that if Cassidy goes on and wins the Stanley Cup. You know, no one will.
I think that's
talk about it.
I mean, don't you think that would be a headline, at least here in Boston?
Yeah.
I mean, fired Bruins coach is still is in the Stanley Cup Finals.
Well, I'm going to be around for another month. I'm going to make sure that happens on Channel 7 because we got that and the Red Sox right now. So I'm happy to do the Cassidy story.
Are you happy with what's going on with you?
I am. I'm very happy. Thank you. Yeah, I'm just ready. And
well, I just know it was in, you know, I read about it. I couldn't believe it. I guess if you're ready, you're ready. But ask Lynchy and I if we were ever ready.
Well, you guys, let's just be real here for a second. You guys got to the finish line, all right? I know you weren't ready, and I know you guys were still, you know, the best in the market still when you left. So, I mean, you guys were fortunate to be able to be on that long, in my opinion. But, yeah, it sucked when it ends. And I know how it ended, from speaking with you guys. But, I got a long way to go here. I got to get to the finish line in life. You guys got to the finish line in our careers, in our profession. And thankfully you guys went out when you were the best. So, I mean, again, I'm not crying for you, Lobel. I'm not crying for you at all, man. Who's going to cry for you?
I'm trying to do you a favor with your interview with Francona, and I get myself fired.
I got to go back and watch that tape. That's unfortunate.
I just did not want to ask any questions. How can I ask you when you're interviewing Francona, and I know he's your property because you're paying him whatever for a Sunday night show? How could I possibly interfere with a question?
Well, I mean, you think that didn't happen to me 100 times with you? And when I first, with the stuff with Patino,
I know that's true.
you had his show. I'm on him in South Florida. Lynchy, I'm on Patino. I've known him since I was 12 years old. Okay.
Yeah.
I have his cell phone number. I'm on him. Okay. I know what golf course he's playing on. He's playing golf with Bob Lobel the day after he disappears down there. I know who he's playing golf with. Okay. I know the golf course. I'm there. I got video from on the side. I'm like, I know where they are.
I remember the video.
I know the private club that he belongs to, where he's probably taken Lobel for dinner afterwards. So I'm there hanging in the lobby. Those two come walking in, and Rick's like, hey, I got to stick with Lobel. I do the show with him. I'm going to do the interview with Bob tonight. I got to let him have the story. You understand? I'm like, yeah, I understand. He's like, come back tomorrow at 10 a.m. We'll do it right here out by the pool. I'm like, great. By the time I do that interview at 10 a.m. the next day, no one cares because Lobel had just played golf with him and done the thing the night before. So I don't feel bad for you, Lobie, at all.
If I feel any better, if it makes you feel any better, I do feel badly for you for that. I do.
You shouldn't. No, you shouldn't.
No.
You shouldn't.
I know, but I do. But he did. It was a tough position for him to be in. But I understood the right thing would have done. He should have done us both right there.
No way. No way. That was your guy. You earned it. You had it. I mean, come on. Yeah, there you go. There you go.
All right, fine. I'm just saying. I remember that like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And I'm still embarrassed by it, to say the truth.
You shouldn't be.
Playing golf somewhere else?
Oh.
I whiffed on that one.
I don't know.
You got us plenty of times too, so let's not start doing that.
Yeah, It was all good. It was all sweet. All right, let me do this other commercial because we're talking about Indian Creek was the name of the golf course.
That's right. Yep.
Shula had a house there.
Yeah, Willie Nelson.
Right. It was a Tony.
What an exclusive place. I couldn't get on the island. I was shooting from a peninsula next door to it.
It was a pretty exclusive place. But anyway. Okay, campers, now's the time to see a fantastic selection of travel trailers, fifth wheelers, motorhomes, pop-ups, and park models. Cold Springs RV in Ware, New Hampshire. The doors are open and you can freely browse. Go in, check it out, take a sniff test, or check out the deals right there at coldspringrv.com. I said deals. Do you know that Cold Springs RV is one of the region's largest state-of-the-art service centers? If you are an experienced auto technician, here's something for you, Joe, for the future. If you would like to be an auto technician for the future, or someone who is ready to learn, feel free to use my name. Cold Springs RV has great benefits and positions open at their Pro RV Service Center. Joe Amorosino, in charge management. Have you ever thought of becoming an auto technician? Well, they are ready to train you. Learn more at teamcoaldsprings.com. That would be a handy tool to have, that kind of information.
Very useful.
Okay, great.
So, remember John Madden had a Madden Cruiser, Joe?
Yep.
So, Cold Springs RV is building a Lobie Cruiser.
This is real.
Well, we think they're building it.
We're working on
our
it.
world.
Going on for about a year and a half.
Nothing's real in our world.
So it's like building a spaceship. It takes a while. A lot of test runs, and they would test pilots out there. But anyway, we're going to let you ride in the Lobel cruiser cross country, but you have to bring one person to ride with you that you can talk to and interview the whole way, all the way across country. It can be any player, alive or dead.
Or a coach, or sports
limit
director,
it to the
whatever.
NBA, you want to just limit, say anybody? I'll let you pick one.
I'm bringing Belichick. I
Belichick.
want to know. I want to know everything. All the things we don't know. I'm going Belichick.
Belichick? All right. What were some of the questions that you would ask him?
Yeah, what don't you know, Joe? What don't you
Well,
know?
I'd go back to the beginning. I mean, we know what's played out, but we don't know how things have played out behind the scenes. Going back to the very beginning and how he got here, what he was promised when he walked away from the Jets, to the stuff that happened with Lawyer Malloy and Willie Clay, and how that fractured somehow very quickly, and he cleaned them right out and reset, to the different Tom Brady's career, their relationship as it's gone along. And gentlemen, I mean, the obvious. I mean, we had a number of different so-called scandals along the way. What really happened, and how much of it was the Patriots being made an example of for things that everyone was doing, and how much of it was they just took it a little too far. So, I mean, I'd have a lot to ask him about, and that's with a ton of respect, because I'm a big Belichick guy, and that's why I would choose him.
I'd probably ask him, I think he'd answer the question about Malcolm Butler.
There you go. I mean, there's so many of them. You asked me, what would I ask him? I mean, we could go across country and back twice. There's plenty there.
Now, if you had the option of substituting Parcells for Belichick, would you, or would you stay Belichick?
Tempting, because he obviously be much more entertaining in the way he delivered information, but I think I'd stick with Belichick. Yeah.
I think you're right. I think it's a good call, isn't it, Bob?
I think it's a perfect call. I think you just got to be ready to be engaged, and just, ready to be forthcoming, and
yeah,
you got to have your ducks.
Well, what about you guys, real quick? Who are you picking?
Well, we're more the entertainers. I would pick Charles Barkley.
All right, there you go. You're a showman. I can understand that.
But I would also go with Parcells too.
Yeah.
Better
TV. Better. Sorry, Lynchy. Better TV. Lobel, you're thinking better TV. I'm thinking I want information. I want to know what's going on. Sorry, Lynchy.
I probably would go. I'd go Bird, Larry Bird. I want to know what happened at Chelsea's that night, the fight. I want to know we've already heard. He's already said his favorite teammate was Dennis Johnson, but who's his least favorite teammate? Who was his least favorite guy to play against? And I know Michael Cooper was, but who did he hate playing against? Was it Lambeer? Was it I think you could get a lot of 4-1-1 from Bird.
Yeah.
Good.
He's on my short list too, for sure. Yeah.
So I don't know.
Maybe I'd interview the general manager that fired me.
That I'd like to see.
Yeah.
One-on-one in the Lobel cruise. That'd be pretty good.
I told him I was part of the solution, not the problem. I did tell him that.
Yeah. Didn't like that, huh?
I don't think so. I think he already made up his mind. When you get to that point, you pretty much have made up your mind.
Joe was one of our interns at Channel 5. You know that, Bob?
I did know that.
Yes.
You have a long list of
Lynchy turns them out.
Yeah, he knows.
Lynchy turns them out.
We had some good ones.
He didn't coddle us. That was a big part of it. There was no coddling. There was a lot of very straight and to the point. This is how we're going to do it, and that's the way we're going to do it. So
we ran a different shop, Joe.
Yeah, I know.
Lobel had Alan Miller get all their
a little differently.
I don't think that any males. They're all females over Channel 4.
I've been gifted to have Alan Miller at Channel 7 in the building for the last 5 years or so, and I mean, you guys have to understand how much of a gift that is, because you have a lot of younger people, a lot of people who don't understand sports and sports history, and a lot of people making decisions because they're a news department for the reasons they make them. Not that they're wrong, but it's just so great to be able to look over at Alan every once in a while and know there's someone in the room is thinking exactly what you're thinking.
Exactly. It's exactly
Yeah.
right. Tell you one quick story about channel 22 in Springfield, right? Is it 25, 22 in Springfield?
It's 22, yeah.
There was, remember the John Chaney Calipari argument after the basketball game between UMass and Temple, and Calipari came charging into well, 22 had the video of that, and they put it up on the internet or whatever they put, on the feed.
Yeah, the satellite feed.
But we were not able to use it, at least in theory.
You picked it off.
In theory, we're not able to use it. I'll never forget this. Alan was sitting in a studio sitting in the office watching this come down about 10 minutes before 11. And Alan said, that's got to get on television, period. That has got to get on television. I don't care if it's channel 22 or channel 35 in Des Moines. That's getting on television, and it's getting on this television station. He put it on.
Oh, that's great.
Did everything. He would not be. He said that has to be on television. It's really good stuff like that. That's how hard charging he was.
Yeah,
love that.
It's better to ask forgiveness than it is to ask permission. Yep, all the time.
Alan got into an automobile accident once. Go down to Cleveland Circle after one of our shows. Cleveland City Side, Cleveland Circle.
Yeah.
And it was a snowstorm. I don't understand why he turned left right in front of this car, and the car T-boned him. Okay, and the passenger side. So I'm right behind him. So Jesus, I jumped out. I said, Alan, before we go to the hospital, give me everything in your glove compartment.
Oh, jeez.
These are the kinds of relationships we had.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
He said, I'll take you to the hospital if that's what you really want to do. Anyway, so we had so many great times.
Yeah.
Did you work at Channel 4, Joe?
No,
never did. Okay. Providence, Channel 7?
Yep. I worked at Cape 11 News on the Cape, was my first on-air job. Followed John Butchergrass down there, and then went to Channel 12, followed him there as well. And then we had the turnover at 7 there, and I was lucky to get that job as a reporter at 7. And
was that under Dino?
Gino was there. Yeah.
Oh, Dino. What about
Dino? It was when Dino left. Dino left, was going to the radio, and Fran Charles was leaving at that time. I think he may have been going to the NFL Network at that point. I'm not sure. So there was turnover, and Gary Gillis was still there, and Gene Levanchi had been elevated to the main job at that point. I was lucky to go into that office with those two guys, really, and the producers that are in there too, You
never got to work with Dino.
No, but Uncle Dino used to weigh in on a lot of things. Believe me, he would still make appearances in the office, and he still makes appearances on my phone with text messages and videos of him on the golf course, and sage advice he continues to have for me.
Yeah, you're a lucky man.
Yeah, real lucky.
How do I get to get on that?
The thing about Dino is, right? So he had to go on the radio, and he had to give us all a hard time, and everyone has their day where Dino goes after you, and he means it, and it's what he does, and it was part of his thing. But the thing about Dino is, if he says something about you on the radio and you call him, he answers the phone and he says it to you again, and then he says, okay, well, you want to meet up somewhere and talk about it? Like, you want to go fight on the corner? And I respect him for that, and I like him for that, because a lot of guys, they say something about you, and then you try to call them. They avoid you. They don't answer the call. They don't return the call. They avoid you in person. Dino doesn't do that. So I'm okay with Dino.
Geez, you like everybody. Like Belichick, you like Patino, you like Dino. What are you going to be doing after this?
I got people I don't like in life. They're just not them.
Joe, what are you going to be doing now that you're going to be moving away from television in a month or so? What are you going to be doing?
I started doing some commercial real estate projects back in 2014, and I've kind of been doing both at the same time, and I'm just ready to to go full time into that. It's my family's business now, and I think that's where I want to put my attention. And it's going to just give me a better lifestyle in terms of not working at night and doing some things that way. My wife owns Belisante Day Spas in Boston, Lexington, and Wellesley, and it's just there's a lot going on in my house in terms of our family businesses. And it's just time, that's what I'll be doing for the next 20 years.
You have day spas in your house?
No, we have them in Boston, Lexington, and Wellesley. Belisante, that's my wife's business.
I've been to the Wells. I've been to the Wells.
Yeah, Lynchy's been in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, yeah, don't bother calling me. That's all right.
Are you going to be a hairdresser, Joe?
No, I'm training, but no, I don't work for my wife at all. She has her own program. They don't want me anywhere near that. Trust me. I don't even go in the door.
I could see you
I'm not involved in that at all. Yeah.
I could see you doing mani-pedis and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You're pretty good at it.
I could see you going in there to get one.
I went in there one day to get a haircut. I think she was, used to have a business relationship with Peony.
Peony Swisser was there for a while. Yeah.
Yeah. So I used to go in there and get a haircut. Hey, Bob, did you know this? That Joe's dad, Joe Amorosino, the father, was my counselor and coach at Sam Jones basketball camp.
I knew that he was a coach at Sam Jones.
Well, he was a coach at North Quincy, BU.
I knew that Joe's dad was big into basketball.
Great coach and great reputation. But I first met him when I was in the 8th grade, and our coaches were Joe Amorosino and Don Nelson. And,
Unbelievable.
I never forgot that. And then I always kept in touch with him. I became a referee, and then Joe went to college. He was at Don Bosco, and then went to BU, and Joe became one of our interns.
I got the best picture of us, Joe, walking off the field in Colorado. You and me and Alice Cook and Alan Miller and that whole crew that was out there. That was pretty cool. Aren't you going to miss this, Joe? Aren't you going to miss it?
Yeah, I mean, of course we're gonna miss those moments. I remember walking off the field with you in Phoenix. I remember sitting next to Lynchy during every single one of these games. We always sat next to each other in the press box. I remember that. My favorite moment, Lynchy, is the Bruins are on that run in 2011, and you always had the red notebook, and the Bruins are up by like 3 goals in the third period, and you boom, close it. You look at me, and that's the end of that. All of a sudden, Milan Lucic. All of a sudden, you open the notebook back up, and I say to myself, "Oh no, this is happening." If Lynchy's opening that notebook back up, this is going down. And sure enough, next thing you know, we're going all the way to Vancouver. Yeah. I'll miss those things. Those are great memories. Covering the events and with the people I covered them with.
Those are Jack Edwards stories, Lynch. Opening the red notebook and
nothing like Joe. Nothing like Jack. Jack had
red
color,
pens and green ink.
He worked at Channel 7 too, and I think people don't realize that once upon a time we needed to log these Patriots games ourselves. There was no log on the internet.
Yeah.
And I have Jack's logs still in our office with his 3 colors with the blue, green, and red pen. Everything, unbelievable notes. He was no joke.
You bring him to the games, for crying out loud. He'd sit there in the booth, and I'm sure he sits there with Brickley to have with 4 or 5 colored pens, doing the same thing he did.
Oh, he's something. He is something.
Roger, remember Jack did something to piss off Roger Clemens one day, and so we were all standing in front of Clemens' locker. Clemens was there. And Clemens says, "I'm not answering anybody's questions until Jack Edwards is removed."
I remember that. I remember that story.
You are not my assignment editor. Dick Molinari is. Until Dick Molinari asks me to leave, I am not moving. Clemens says, "Well, there'll be no questions that'll be answered." Now everyone's like saying, "Jack, scroll, will you?" So we can get this interview done. And he wouldn't leave. He wouldn't budge. That's Jack. That's Jack.
Yep. My headphones are about to go. So do I need to switch over, or are we?
Hold on. I'll be one more spot. We'll say goodbye. How's that? All right.
All right.
All right. Are you thinking about you gonna need a new car, Joe? When you're
Nope. Good.
Nope.
Thank you, but I'll pay attention.
All right. If you're thinking about a new vehicle, go where me and Lobel go. Go see our friend George Gray at George Gray's Lexington Toyota. We've been customers for years because we know George will treat you right. We're a family-owned and operated dealership that we trust and you can trust as well. Go see the great George Gray at Lexington Toyota. You will not be disappointed. You'll be part of the family, part of the Lexington Toyota family. All right, your headphones are going, so we'll wrap this up. Supposed to read something at the end too. Hold on here.
What are you going to read? Well, let me just wrap it up by telling them how happy we are to have Joe on today. And it won't be the last time. And the next time we'll be talking business. We'll be renting a business somewhere.
Yeah, you can tell us.
Except it's called None of Your Business.
There you go. No, guys, thank you so much for having me on. It means a ton to be on with you too. And I will be in touch with both of you and stay in contact. My headphones are going to go. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold my position as if I'm in a live shot, even though I can't hear anything, as if I can.
Okay. All right. Thanks, folks. Don't forget to follow us on social media and subscribe on YouTube on your favorite podcasting app. That's the story. Bye, Joe. Bye, everybody. See you all later. Bye-bye.
Adios. Good job.